Good afternoon. Thank everybody for being here today. Madam Clerk, I call this meeting to order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call your attention to our invocation portion of our agenda, which will be shared with us today by Reverend Terry Dagenhart. I'm sorry, I knew I missed that. Priest in charge, St. Augustine of the Canterbury Episcopal Church, after which we'll ask Mr. Benish Brown, since he's up front, if he would please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
So let us pray. Oh God, we come before you with gratitude. We thank you for being a God of love who is with us now in this very room. You never leave us or you never forsake us. Your grace has brought us safe thus far, and your grace will lead us home. And we thank you for making each of us here, every person we meet, every citizen of this city and every city in your own image, with dignity and infinite worth. We thank you for the calling that you have given every one of us to be good stewards of your creation, to love our neighbors, and to love ourselves. And so we thank you, God, for these servants, the mayor, the managers, the staff, our 10 council members. And we give thanks for the way of service that they have chosen to take on behalf of all of us here. And we come to this meeting today as complex human beings, carrying burdens, carrying joy and hope, trusting that you alone can hold us together in your love and your peace. We pray for wisdom, for strength, and for courage to do what is right and to do what is good for all citizens. May we put the interests of others before our own, and may we act with love for the common good, and may we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here. Send down upon these men and women who hold office the spirit of wisdom and charity and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Terry. We would like to thank you for coming and praying for us. Thank you for that prayer of courage. We ask God, we do. We really do. I always ask God to give me the courage to trust him. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
By these presents be it known that Terry
Dagenhart,
priest in charge of St. Augustine of the Canterbury Episcopal Church, is the chaplain of the day. May her spiritual guidance and civic leadership serve as an example for all citizens of Augusta. Given under my hand this 21st day of March, 2023, Garnett L. Johnson, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Call your attention to the recognition portion of our agenda. Our February Years of Service recipients, Director Anita Ruckert, our HR Director.
Good afternoon, Mayor Johnson, Commissioners, Interim Administrator, and special guests and citizens of Augusta. It is indeed my pleasure to recognize our February Years of Service recipients. For the month of February 2023, we have 29 employees celebrating 5 to 50 years of service with Augusta. This afternoon, we would like to recognize our 25 to 50 years of service recipients. For the month of February, the total years of service and institutional knowledge being celebrated today is 395 years. So, yeah, that's right. So when I call your name, please come forward. Mr. Bruce Flanagan, Utilities, 25 years. Mr. Thelonious Jones, Utilities, 25 years. Ms. Robin Aldridge, Mr. Robin Aldridge, Engineering Department, 30 years. Robert Salas, Sheriff's Office, 25 years. Stephanie Jackson, Sheriff's Office, 25 years. Finally, John Starley with the Bushfield Airport, 35 years. Again, congratulations to our, oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Again, congratulations to all of our recipients for their years of service.
All right, Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Call your attention to the delegation portion of our agenda. Item number B, Mr. Kelvin DeLagle regarding the status of the City Cemetery Perpetual Care Commission.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. DeLagle. If you will, for the record, please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, great. Yes, Kevin DeLagle, 636 11th Street in downtown Augusta.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners and Administrator Dowse and everyone assembled here. Thank you for the time to come forward and with some questions about the maintenance of our city cemeteries and the Perpetual Care Fund. Lately, we've had some real interest in the city cemeteries. We've had some community groups getting out and doing work at Magnolia Cemetery and other cemeteries, some of the 6 cemeteries that are owned by the city, maintained by the city. This weekend, we had a cleanup and planning at Magnolia Cemetery. You can see the before and after that community group came forward and worked on that to beautify Magnolia. Also, at the Somerville Fitton Cemetery, we did a cleanup. Well, not we, but the Somerville Sand Hills Neighborhood Association came together. So there is a lot of community interest. I mean, for a lot of people, these cemeteries are sacred ground, and we really, I mean, they're huge treasures. I mean, we're really blessed in this town to have these historic, beautiful cemeteries. Right now, the general maintenance has become the responsibility of RCCI, and I was there at Magnolia and Cedar Grove yesterday, and they were doing a really great job, working very hard. I know that I gather that they're there once or twice a week in Magnolia and Cedar Grove and so forth. So I'm happy to see that maintenance going on. But my question is that how are, now that you have the wardens and their teams working on the schedule of maintenance, how is that determined, or what is the oversight there? I'm not sure what sort of landscaping or horticultural experience or background they may have, but I'm just wondering, how is that oversight handled? But we do appreciate their hard work. As for perpetual care, as concerned citizens get out to do the cleanups and the weeding and so forth, the inevitable question that keeps coming up is what happened to perpetual care? We see the little stones on the edge of the plots that are kind of overgrown and forgotten, and everyone always asks, what happened to perpetual care? So I got a memo this morning from Director McDowell from the Parks and Recreation Department, so I thank him and his department for that. From what I understand, the balance of the perpetual care fund as of the end of 2022 is $205,157. But we understand that perpetual care is only 3% of the annual expenditures for cemeteries. And that fund is going to be depleted by 2030. So my question is, how do we reactivate this? Is there a way, even though all the plots are sold, is there a way to reactivate this? How do we ensure that the cemetery cleanups, the maintenance are properly funded? I understand for this year, an additional $853,500 was allocated by the city for maintenance of cemeteries. So we are grateful for that. But some questions remain. I'm wondering, is this $853,500, is that going to be allocated annually, or how does that work? I mean, and what exactly is that being spent on if now the general maintenance is the responsibility of RCCI? And then how can we ensure going forward in 24 and going forward, how do we make sure that the 6 city cemeteries are being properly funded for maintenance? I'm not sure how that works in terms of per 6 cemeteries. Is it $142,000 and change for each cemetery, or how does that work? So as I said, I would love to know how these funds are being used going forward, and if there's any sort of annual or quarterly report of how the funds are spent. And in the memo, it says that team members are no longer responsible for maintenance, are asked to assist in improving the overall look of the cemeteries. So I'm not sure what that means, but I'd love to see some examples of how this is being implemented going forward. And just in conclusion, thank you for your time today. Thank you for pledging to take care of Augusta's historic cemeteries. We would love to see that this partnership between the private and the public sector is strengthened to improve our treasured historic cemeteries. So thank you.
Mr. DeLago, certainly thank you for being here, and thank you for your work that you're doing throughout the community. I guess I want to try to get your question answered. I'm going to ask the administrator to chime in. So let's just see.
That's what I was.
Yep.
Mr. DeLago, thank you so much for your presentation as well as your concern and partnership. We also appreciate, I'm sure RCCI appreciates you giving them your vote of confidence and accolades, because I do know if it was not maintained to your pleasure that you would voice such as well. So thank you for that. Mayor Johnson, as well as other commissioners, Mr. DeLago posed several questions to us today, and so I would like an opportunity to answer all of his questions, however, not at this time. So if he would forward the presentation or give a copy to myself as well as the clerk for our record, and I'll make sure that we get all of his questions answered in a written format, so this body as well as the public and Mr. DeLago is in receipt of the answers.
Thank you, Madam Administrator. I'm going to go through the QSC Commissioner from the 4th, Commissioner Mason.
Well, I was just taking my name off because that's what I was going to suggest, that presentation be forwarded to our administrator to answer those questions and to get back with you. So do we need to do that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor?
I don't think so. I think we're just receiving his information, and the administrators pledged to get us the information back to this body.
Roger that.
All right. Mr. DeLagle, thank you again, sir. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Continue the
thank you.
great work.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
next
so
time.
much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the information.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Our next delegation, item C, Mr. Moses Todd, representing I Love Augusta regarding addressing media information and character assassination by TAP in defense of Commissioner Stacy Pulliam.
Mr. Todd, thank you for being here, sir. For the record, please state your name and address.
Moses Todd, 2747 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Yes. I probably won't need 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to talk about something that you brought to the commission when you come here. That was mutual respect, civility, and civil discourse. And I want to say that, you know, many of you up there on the back of the dais I've supported, and some I've worked against. And, you know, that's just a matter of a record. Miss Stacy Pulliam, I didn't know her before she ran, and I supported another candidate. I don't think there could be a finer commissioner on the board than Miss Pulliam. And as I've observed the last, few months on how some of the ladies on the commission is treated, and that's not just Miss Pulliam, that Miss McKnight also. I think that it's a disservice to this community that we don't have civil discourse with our commissioners. And there's misinformation that's in the media as far as TAP go, or the Augusta Press go. And I know I could have wrote a letter to the editor to the Augusta Press, or wrote a letter to the publisher, Mr. Joe Edge. But I think it's important for this community to get the information right. I understand, when it's a column, or whether it's Sylvia Cooper or John Clark, and I understand political satire. And there's a place for it in our community. But there is not a place for character assassination and opinions that's not based on facts that was reported in the local press, or that's not a matter of public record. And I think it's time for our media friends to stop trying to set the narrative or influence the outcome of issues down here and report the news. Whether it, good news or bad news, just report the news. And I think it's time for civility. It's time for civil discourse with all involved. I subscribe to the Augusta Press and to the Augusta Chronicle. I read the articles. I sometimes comment on the stories. And I try to do it in a civil manner and not make accusations against the staff of the Augusta Richmond County government or legal counsel or commissioners. There's commissioners that I disagree with. I have no permanent enemies or friends, just permanent principles. And I believe in transparency. I think that's important for government. But we need to do better 52 weeks of the year, not just 51. I noticed that we usually get on our best behavior during Masters Week. We need to try to make that behavior last 52 weeks. Ms. Pulliam didn't ask me to come down here and voice my opinion in support of her. Matter of fact, I didn't even talk to her about it. But the comments that's allowed in the comment section of the Augusta Press, they have a code of conduct as far as comments. Some of them accuse the county attorney and Miss Pulliam of being in a relationship. And that's ridiculous.
Mr. Todd, let's stay on the matter here, okay?
Yes, I'm on the matter. I'm on the matter of Augusta Press and civility as far as this government go and as far as this community go.
Thank you. I think that's a matter that it's probably more appropriate that you take up directly with the Augusta Press.
Well, there's that possibility. Okay. But this was the platform, Mr. Mayor, to do it and to talk about civility around, between the commissioners, civil discourse as far as the commissioners go, and the way that some of the commissioners is treated by the press in this community. And believe me that I'll just tell you like I told Billy Morris. I hope you're not scared of me because I'm darn sure not scared of you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Todd, for being here. I appreciate it. There's no one in the queue. Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Our next delegation, item D, Mr. Christopher Vega, regarding funding for his nonprofit organization.
Mr. Vega, good day, sir. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind, for the record, please state your name and address.
Christopher Vega. I stay at the Salvation Army on Green Street.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vega.
Thank you.
You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I think I only need 2. So, I came up with this a couple years ago, and I was trying to get it moved in different cities, and I couldn't find the platform. So this is the platform here, and I'm going to just speak a little bit about it. It's an indoor beach. It's going to be for mental health, helping you to become your greatest ally. Because I know a lot in my life, there was times where I couldn't even look in the mirror without hating myself. And that led to a lot of suicidal ideation and actual attempts. So I'm trying to help people get out of their own way, as it were. Physical health, homeless veterans, single moms with housing, food, clothing, and other monies, vehicles, etc. Exercise, relaxation, entertainment, and a chance to showcase your talents. This is more for them getting out of the cold. Children not having to be out in shelters, because they do tell you have to get out. And if it's 35 degrees outside and you're a child, that doesn't make much sense. Spiritual health will give you the opportunity to see and feel like you can escape from the worries of everyday life with gratitude and abundance for all. There's a lot of spiritual health that's not being addressed, and it's mostly with people not being able to see that there is a higher power. I'm not going to go too far into that. Entertainment, or lack thereof, is a serious threat to all of the above. Feel like you're on vacation in your own backyard. I mean, look at how much money you spend going out of town, thousands of dollars, going to different states, vacations, and it's just if we keep the money here, we can lower taxes. Bring out of state funds, we can lower taxes. People a lot of us aren't even being paid a livable wage. You know how hard it is to find a job with a livable wage where you can actually have food and you don't have to go to the food bank? It's hard, especially when you're homeless. It's hard. The cultural education with our Island Eats restaurant, different island foods, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Philippines, Hawaii, Japan. We're going to teach people that, that we might look different, but we're not different. Those of us making under $100,000 a year get any and all services for free. Anybody making over that gets the spiritual health part for free, because I've received that for free, so I'm not ever going to try to charge anyone for that spiritual wellness that I have now. I share that for free every single day when I'm outside, whether I'm at work or just roaming around the streets, because again, we're not allowed to be in the shelter past a certain time, so you have to be out in the streets. So what am I doing? I'm out in the streets with everybody else. There's also, you know, when there's school breaks, field trips, holidays, try to take your kids somewhere that's not, you know, Walmart or, you know, someplace where you have to spend money. If you can relax and watch your children have fun, why isn't that being addressed? Why haven't we built something that people can say, hey, you know, I don't have to go. I can have my drink here and watch my children have fun with other children. You know, that's also part of the cultural balance. Paid volunteer credits for work, school, and probation. Free rides to and from if you can't afford. Yes, sir.
You have 1 minute.
1 minute, okay. So I did take more than 2. More than a livable wage will be paid to all employees. Out-of-state funds will bring millions in order to lower the taxes. And you can learn, grow, and change from the inside out. That's what I'm trying to bring. And yeah, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Vega, for being here. Are there any questions from this body? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Bonner, let's continue.
Call your attention to our consent agenda, which consists of items 1 through 22. Items 1 through 22. For the benefit of any objectors to our planning petitions, I call your attention to item number 1. It's a request for rezoning from a Zone A agriculture to a Zone B2 general business, affecting property located at 703 and 709 East Robinson Avenue. Item number 2 is a request for rezoning from an R1A one-family residential to a Zone B2 general business, affecting property located at 1801 Lumpkin Road. Item number 3 is a request for a rezoning from a Zone R1A one-family residential to an R1B one-family residential, affecting property located at 3029 Cardinal Drive. Item number 4 is a planning petition requesting a rezoning from a Zone R1C one-family residential to a Zone R1D one-family residential, affecting property located at 927 Russell Street. Item number 5 is a request for a rezoning from a Zone R1A one-family residential to an R1E one-family residential, affecting property located at 2715 Mayo Road. Are there any objectors to any of our planning petitions? Okay. Call your attention to the public service portion of our agenda. If there are any objectors to our alcohol petitions, would you please signify your objection by raising your hand once the petition is read? Call your attention to item number 6. It's a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with the location at 1600 Barton Chapel Road. Item number 7 is a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with the location at 4630 Mike Paget Highway. Are there any objectors to either of those alcohol petitions? Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 22 with no objectors to our planning or alcohol petitions.
So moved.
All right. No, all right. We've got a few folks in the queue here. He said so moved. Let's go to a commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Grantham.
Yeah, I'd like to pull agenda item number 10, please.
Okay. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 8th, Commissioner Garrett.
Motion to approve as stated.
I have a motion.
A second.
And I have a second. Are there any discussions before we vote?
Mr. Mayor, just before we vote, I want to call your attention to item number 21, Commissioner Garrett's appointment to the Augusta Port Authority. Mr. Thurman is currently serving an expired term on the Housing and Community Development Board, which he will be stepping down
Thank you for that
to
clarification.
take this appointment.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. All right. I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Bobby Williams and Mr. Tony Lewis out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's continue.
Okay, that would take us to item number 10. Motion to approve allocating funds in the amount of $580,000 in the Recreations Department budget through SPLOST 7, using the competitive bid process for mold remediation at the boathouse to procure other bids for repairs to the deck and remainder of the construction rehabilitation work, and to take care of needs of the rowing club.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Frandom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the discussion last week on the committee, we definitely had the rowing club here, and we are fully supportive of the rowing club. My concern is this body has not determined what we're going to do with the boathouse, and for us to spend $580,000 and then say, oh, now we're going to tear down the boathouse because that's highest and best use of what we think as a body, that is something that I'm not comfortable with, frankly. I think that we need to have more discussion as a body. We also have Destination Augusta, the blueprint, where they came out in 2017 and had a building at the end of the Augusta Common that was a part of a master plan that, I don't think this body or this government can support two entities like that, but is that a better, highest, and best use from this body moving forward to build something like that, what they had in that plan? Or is it to rehabilitate or fix the boathouse? I mean, I think we all know that the state of the boathouse is not very good, and we want to support the rowing club, but we probably need to tear it down. And if we're going to start over, and that's going to be our entity that we want to keep as a governing body. So, I just think that this commission ought to punt right now and make sure we take care of the rowing club, whatever that means. If that's the big carton containers for boats, if there's another facility, we need to take care of the rowing club, and I'm committed to that. But for us to agree today to spend almost $600,000 on a building that we don't know whether we're going to keep or tear down, I don't think that's very good taxpayer dollars spent, and I'm hoping that we can punt this right now. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Administrator Dowse, if I can ask, has there been any discussion about alternative plans, or is there any space that if we needed to take care of the boathouse, are there any alternative plans that's been considered?
Are you speaking in reference to the rowing club?
I'm sorry, yes, and speaking in reference to the rowing club, yes.
Sure. So the rowing club has been in conversation with Parks and Recreation, and so their needs at this point are well taken care of, as well as if and when their needs change in the future, we will be prepared to address those as they occur.
Thank you, Madam. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 8th, Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you. I agree with my colleague that we need to really take a close look at, is this the best way to utilize these funds in some rehabilitation that, honestly, I think we all recognize is probably going to be short-lived, because there's been a conversation for over a year now of taking that facility and rebuilding it to something that could actually be used by the masses, as well as updated and hopefully utilize the river in a much better way. So I think it's probably a very good idea that we pause here and make sure that we do take care of the rowing club and the economic impact that they have and bring to the city. even if it means some temporary structures or whatever it takes to, in the meantime. But I just can't support spending $580,000 on something that we could apply that money to the $5 or $6 million project that we're heard about last week.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 4th, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And maybe it sounds like a tape recording going on, but at this point, I wouldn't support any funding for the boathouse in terms of mold remediation or anything like that. The building is old. It's in disrepair, if you ask me. Where it sits is a diamond and a jewel for us as a city, if in fact we put the right thing or build the right thing on that particular property. So I'm more in favor of tearing it down at this point, bringing back up something that the citizens of Augusta, Richmond County can be proud of in conjunction with any other entities that may have a vision for what we like to see on the river there. So I would not be in favor of this at this particular time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 3rd, Commissioner McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and say I agree with my colleagues. Spending $580,000 just to do work and then maybe tear it down in a year or so, 2 years, is wasting taxpayers' money. So I feel like that we can find the rowing club. We're all in agreement that we support the rowing club and find somewhere for them to go. But yeah, I can't support this today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 1st, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I get the Director of Central Services up to the podium, please? And perhaps
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
McDowell as well.
Mr. McDowell in the house. Here he comes.
I'll start my questions off to Interim Director Lampkin. Quick question. How much did we say last week that it would cost to rebuild the boathouse altogether?
To do a remodel at where we at now, you're probably looking at about $5.5 million, and then to include the remediation.
Okay, and so the $5 million, what is the earliest funding of availability you see us being able to get that done? So if we say today that we want to put an axe in this, get a firm to draw a plan, and then fund this new building, what timeline are we looking at?
Okay, so you have two options here, is what I'm looking at, and my thought process is, one, we can take the $580,000, tear it down because it's in disrepair, and you have all the mold and all that going on. So you can approve that money and do that as a tear down. And then we have SPLOS 9 that will be coming up. So with the $580,000, depending on what it would take to get it torn down and get some designs drawn on a new building, you might want to take that money and do that, and then look for a SPLOS 9 project to rebuild back whatever design is done. Or you can try to find the $5.6 million to just do a renovation of the building. So those will be the two options if you have that kind of funds available.
And with that, are we talking? So with that option, how would that benefit the rowing club at all? Because this conversation has been largely centered around helping the rowing club get back into
right.
commission.
So as far as the rowing club goes, at this point, it's best for us to find a place to relocate them, regardless of which direction we go in. One, because like I said, the building itself is being overtaken by mold, so they would need to evacuate the building anyway. So at this point, we just need to find somewhere else to house them, whether it be containers or another building somewhere that's close to the water. And then we could determine which direction we want to go in as far as the building. Do we want to do a renovation of the building we have? Or since, like I said, it's time to start, we are in SPLOS 8 now, it's time to start discussing a SPLOS 9 package, and then that could be included in a new package.
So has the rowing club been spoke to about these alternatives, potential alternatives?
Right, like I said, they've been in contact with Director McDowell about some options that we can have, and we did discuss with them some options of as far as putting stuff in containers and kind of getting them some fenced area to house that stuff in.
Okay, and then my last question, hopefully, knock on wood, I'm trying to get us out of here, Mr. Mason. You remember what we said earlier. All right. Well, messing with Mr. Mason, I lost my train of thought.
You did call Mr. McDowell up too.
That's right, I did, but I think Director Lampkin has answered a majority of the questions. The final question is the SPLOST 9 conversation. Now that's a couple years down the road. We're talking how many years? 2-3 years down the road?
Right. So I guess just like in most SPLOST, you come up with a list of projects that we're going to have to do shortly here. That way we can get on the referendum, be voted on, and it'll be a few years if it passes, and when it passes, that we'll be able to jump right into it. And this could be like a year one project if we decide to do that. So you're probably looking at a 5-year span here, maybe.
Without a boathouse.
Right. So like I said, unless you find other funds and see, in order to know how much it's going to cost us to rebuild another one, we would have to get a design done. And so that's why I'm saying with the $580,000, we can come up, or at least do a procurement to get a design firm to say, hey, this is our space. Can you design us something that everybody can be happy with, and then give us some cost estimates?
Okay. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 10th, Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lampkin, as far as the square footage that the Rowing Club is utilizing right now, renting from the Augusta Richmond County, what's the square footage? I believe I had asked this question last week.
I am not quite sure of their space at the bottom, what the square footage is. Director McDowell,
1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
I mean, it's a very large space. We probably looking at 4 or 5, if I had to guess. At least where the boats is, might be, because you have the boats in one area, you have their office space as well. That's
200
upstairs.
by 200, 4,000 square feet, 200 foot by 200 foot.
It's possible, yes. I mean, it's a very large space. So, I mean, in that case, what they were saying is they could put the boats on trailers and then have a fenced area for that. And then they also have a weight room that's down there that they train in, and that stuff can go inside a container if necessary.
I don't know if this, my colleagues is in favor of this. Let's, one, let's tear it down. Two, instead of putting up another per se restaurant, let's put something that it could be utilized by all.
Yes, sir.
That it's going to be low maintenance. As we've seen in the past, we're not too good at taking care of what we have. Put a big deck out there, you know, for people to, quality of life things for families could overlook the river, for the rowing boat club, to where the patrons can come and see, overlooking the river without, you know, it's going to be open to outdoors. But let's try to figure a building, whatever the needs of the rowing club is, because they do bring an economic value to Augusta, Richmond County, and bring in a lot of people from other parts of the state as well as out of the state. But put $5 to $6 million in those set of bones, I'm not in favor of that whatsoever. I think that's the only good money at bad. I believe we could utilize that money for better use. And with this splash coming up, I think we need to come up with, all of us get together and come up with some great ideas. I mean, downtown is the heartbeat of Augusta, Richmond County. We need to keep that heart steadily bumping, you know. But for right now, my motion is to, let's find out what it costs to demolish the boathouse and make sure that we take care of the rowing club with containers for them to, and plus they already have the portalets out there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I would ask that we have some more dialogue with the rowing club prior to us saying containers, because this is a longer term process now, so that may not be conducive to what their needs are in a long term capacity, because we're talking now 5-6 years down the road. So I would say just allow us some opportunity to speak back with the rowing club now that we all are on the same sheet of music in terms of the length of time we're expecting now, and let them come back with us, in concert with us, to give some ideas, bring that back before the body, and see can you all support whatever we come back to report to you as to what can address their needs for, I would say, probably the next 5 years, 5 to 7 years.
Right. But as far as utilizing that building, walking in, it's not safe.
That's right.
And so we'd rather not be put at risk for a city where
Right, so
there's a lot of young people on that rowing club I would hate to see get hurt.
Right, so we'll bring you two plans. The first is a short-term plan to get this stuff out now.
Right.
And then a long-term plan as to what their needs will be for the next 5 to 7 years as we wait to SPLOST 9 to come to build a new facility. They're gonna need some space. So we need to be addressing those issues now and bring that back with hopefully some projected costs. So the commissioners be aware if this is something that we have to add to our operating budget annually to take care of, we can have those conversations now prior to we get into budget season.
Director McDowell, how long you think? Make sure you give yourself adequate time, because last thing we need to do is rush numbers and we fall short.
Right. So now that we've sort of got some ideas from this body as to which direction we're going, I will meet with the rowing club and we'll talk about short term, what they can do based on the site, because at this point we got to get all the equipment out. So we got to figure out a plan for that. And then we got to figure out a plan for the next 5 to 7 years as we wait for a new facility to come on board. So we'll present you with both options, cost estimates for both options, and then see how this body can support that. Because currently we won't have it in our operation budget for this year, but moving forward, we'll have to take on consideration for those numbers.
3 weeks, 5 weeks for a response?
I think give us about 30 days. I think we'll be suffice to bring something back before this body.
My motion is, Madam Clerk, can you put this on the committee cycle in 30 days?
Yes,
or
sir.
the closest one to it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Everybody in agreement?
Second.
Motion.
Scott seconding that motion.
In agreement.
All right. We're gonna keep moving through the queue here in just a second. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Ms. Scott.
By Ms. Scott. All right. Ms. Pulliam from the second.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is it feasible to, when we're going through the RFP process, if this body is in agreement, for us to try to get a quote for both the demo and the rebuild? Because as I'm understanding, Interim Administrator Lampkin, you're saying that it could potentially be $580 just for the demo and then an additional amount for the rebuild. But if in our RFP process, we actually try to combine the two, would a company give us a better pricing for doing both the demo and the rebuild if they have the ability to do both? So I think that's something that we should also consider, again, as long as the boathouse is not going to present danger to anyone, around it, as long as it's not taped off at this point. So that's something to consider and to think about. Director Lampkin?
And what you're saying is correct. Once we vacate the building, we don't have to demolish it right this second. Mm-hmm. So as part of depending on how long this is going to take, you don't want a building just sitting there dilapidating. So you may want to do it separately, but like I said, it's just the will of this body. Of course, you could do a demo rebuild at the same time, but like I said, you would have to go through that process and then finding funding, and a new building still would have to be designed. Mm-hmm. So right now, we're just looking at demo and cleaning the area up. And then, because at the same time, the rowing club still uses that area to get in the water and out. So you just don't want to have a building enough pieces falling in the water. So, because that's what's eventually it's just going to start falling apart. So.
Absolutely. But
Commissioner, if I may, based on your question, I don't think it would be prudent on our part to ask for projected cost to rebuild unless we have the funds available. Because if we're 5-7 years down the road with inflation, those numbers won't be any good anyways. I think our focus has to be on demolition of the facility and then temporarily finding housing space for the rowing club. Once we have funds available, we can get cost estimates at that point. But we're talking 5-7 years down the road. Unless we have those funds immediately available, your numbers won't do you any good by getting that cost estimate in concert with demolition package.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
And then to add to that, we won't be able to get cost estimates without having the design in place first. So we have to get a design done as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a legal question. Attorney Brown, I know that river poses all sorts of legal challenges with the Corps of Engineers. With us demoing this property, do you foresee any challenges in rebuilding on the river?
I would need to provide you that answer, Mayor, after I consult with engineering.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But that I do understand your consideration.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Commissioner from the 8th, Commissioner Garrett.
Thanks, sir. This question is actually for staff. I know there's a motion on the floor to hear things back in 30 days, but what are we going to do in that 30 days to make sure that the rowing club and their equipment is taken care of? I think that's kind of what we need to make sure is done as soon as possible, just because of the condition and the potential hazards within that building.
So if I may, again, we had some preliminary discussions about taking care of the Royal Club, and I think we've sort of mitigated that on the front end. Now that we're talking now about tearing the facility down, I think it's prudent on our part to go back, have a follow-up conversation with the Rowing Club and saying, hey, we're looking at possibly this being a 5-7 year project. So does the needs that we've met currently, is that something you can maintain, or is that something that we need to be looking at that's different, that's alternate to what we've already come up with? We have to put the onus back on them to let us know what their needs are at that particular time. And once we have that discussion, we can bring that back before this body. They may say they may need some more time to get the equipment out, because they got to find a location for that equipment to be placed in. They also have to consider their workout facility that's part of that facility. Where can they get some, the same quality of workout for their athletes, how far away from the river? All these things have to be considered. So the best thing for us to do is come back with a plan and bring that plan back to you all. In the interim, we'll continue to work in concert with the Rowing Club to meet their challenges currently, but we're looking at a longer plan. So I think they're fine right now, but we got to continue to massage this thing out and figure out what the long-term strategy is. But I think we have to do that in concert with the Rowing Club. We can't answer that for them. They have to give us some of that information.
Thanks, sir. Attorney Brown, can we place this agenda item on our next legal session, please, just to have a little more discussion around the real estate aspects of this as well? Just the ramifications of rebuilding and all of that.
From what you're saying, presently it would not be eligible for the legal agenda for real estate, as real estate has to be with either acquiring or disposing of property.
There's an additional property, and I'll send you that address.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 3rd.
Mr. Mayor, is it okay if I make a motion on this? I know we're going to bring it back to discuss and look at it further. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, substitute motion.
All right. Would you like to substitute motion?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to deny it. So we already got something on the floor then? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
All right, Madam Clerk, for the record, can you reread the motion that's on the table, please?
Yes, sir. The motion is to require for demolition, take care of the rowing club needs, i.e. containers, rec department to report back in 30 days to the Public Services Committee regarding the demolition as well as rebuild.
All right, the motion has been read.
Mr. Mayor.
I have, all right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 1st.
Can I get a little clarity on that? So are we voting to demolish?
No, costs for
so
demolition.
Okay,
Yeah,
to get the
costs for demolition and for rebuild.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I have a motion and I have a second.
Yes, Ms. Scott.
Ms. Scott, Ms. Seconded. So without any...
Mr. Guilfoyle and Ms. Scott.
Guilfoyle and Ms. Scott. So seeing no one else in the queue, no further...
Ms. Administrator.
All right, I'm sorry.
Mayor Johnson and Commissioners, I wanted you to be aware, as stated by Director Lampkin, we will not be able to provide you with a cost to rebuild simply because we do not have construction plans, documents, and so I would like for you to consider that in your motion.
Do we need to take that out? Would have been your
Yes, please.
design? Is there any way we could get a design?
We would not even be able to get you a design cost because that would have to be procured. We would need to draw up specifications and then bid that to even obtain a cost for design.
Commissioner from the 10th, can you restate your motion, remove the cost for rebuild, please?
I don't think it showed a stated a cost in there. My concern was what it would cost for demolition and to make sure we take care of the rowing club.
All right, that's it.
I didn't
That's
perceive
what it
or
is. All right.
insinuate anything else, because I do realize that plans has to be drawn up, but the plans has to be drawn up at the wishes of what this body decides or staff decides. I'm aware of that, so there was no way that my motion had included the building whatsoever as far as to rebuild, Ms. Dobbs.
All right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you restate it?
Okay, so that would be the cost for the demolition, take care of the rowing club needs, containers, Recreation Department to report back in 30 days to the Public Services Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Knight, you good with that and the second and that? All right, I have a motion.
I'm good, thank you.
I have a second. Madam Clerk, voting.
Mr. Mason, oh, he's thinking. Mr. Johnson's thinking. It's unanimous with those present, with Mr. Williams and Mr. Lewis out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's continue, please.
Okay. That will take us to item number 23. Receive as information a presentation from Destination Augusta.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Thank you so much, Mayor and
Thank you, sir.
members of the commission. And I do have some extra copies if anybody needs some copies. Okay. While the tape is getting set up.
Do you have another?
Absolutely. So we're set up. Thank you again so much, Mayor and Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to come before you to provide an update on what we're doing at Destination Augusta, and this is our Q1 update as required by the agreement we have with you. But ultimately, we just always want to look for ways to work on community priorities along with you and along with the staff here at Augusta, Richmond County. I am going to hopefully make a very quick but meaningful story from some of the 4 topics you see here on the table of contents. Our mission and vision are our heart and soul at Destination Augusta. They are our North Star. It's our focus and our commitment. And as a part of that, we just always want to help to make Augusta better as a destination, make it better as a place of employment, make it better for businesses and particularly our locally homegrown businesses. You have received a copy, I think, in advance of our 2022 annual report, and what it does is provide for you an account of what we accomplished during that 1 year's time. Our successes, though, were only made possible by your support, which comes from a portion of the local lodging tax funds. I'll also note that at all times, we have 2 members of the commission serving on our board. Their input and their feedback are always critical to our work. This year it is Commissioners Frantum and Pulliam, so we do thank the commission for that. In the annual report, you see this slide as it reflects total visitor spending in our community, and it breaks down the data to key spending areas that are listed on this screen. The data is compiled through our state tourism office, Explore Georgia, and it's compiled by a company called Tourism Economics. It's made available at the end of a calendar year for the previous year, so that's why 2021 numbers are shown in a 2022 report. Tourism economics also estimates that local households save the equivalent of about $760 a year because of the state and local taxes that's generated by visitors. Marketing is an integral part of our mission, and we use tailored messaging and tailored campaigns to reach leisure travelers, to reach decision makers who bring meetings and conventions and other events here. And we use marketing to provide, to remind those in the local area about the assets that we have here in Augusta. And if you take time to read this blurb, you'll see some of the achievements we've made with our marketing campaign. Sponsoring the historic 300th episode of the Very Vera Show resulted in some very broad public relations exposure for us in the city of Augusta. We did give away a weekend stay for visitors as part of a contest. But just as important, or maybe even more importantly, the sponsorship we had for this 30th episode allowed us the rare opportunity. We normally don't budget enough for television commercials, but we were able to have television commercials in nearly 40 TV markets. That's the footprint of the Very Vera Show, from the East Coast to the Gulf Coast to Texas to Wisconsin and other areas. Creating new visitor experiences that go beyond just what you would call show and tell has been a big push for us. In partnership with 10 of our attractions, we started last year laying some groundwork for a new product that we've branded as Authentic Augusta Experiences. We call these immersive experiences because many of them will engage, if not all the 5 senses, definitely more than just show and tell. We will have a formal launch event for these 10 experiences near the end of April, and we'll make sure that you are invited. 2022 was another impactful year for meetings and for sporting events. We had just over 100 meetings and events here in Augusta during the year that generated more than $52 million in economic impact for our city. And I'm always proud of the work we do at Augusta & Company there at 1010 Broad Street. This Visitor Experience Center is a launch pad for what people can enjoy in all parts of our community. But we also represent, I think, the true diversity of this city in the types of retail partners and businesses that you'll find on our shelves, and you see the data on your screen. Just as Augusta & Company is a recognized brand under Destination Augusta, the Destination Augusta umbrella, so is Film Augusta. And by the way, Film Augusta is your official film commission. In January of last year, 13 students made history by becoming the first class of the Georgia Film Academy here in Augusta. We were fortunate to partner with Augusta Technical College, with the Georgia Film Academy, and with the local Indie Grip Studio. You see here a student who's enrolled in the Introduction to Film and Television Production. Again, I hope you will take time to just look through that annual report, look at our programs, our priorities, and our progress in this report. Just have this slide here. I want to give you a glimpse of what some data is provided to us during the last year, during 2022. It shows what consumers search for when they are researching Augusta online. That orange bar represents what we call organic searches to our various landing pages. But when you see that blue bar, that represents what happens when we add paid advertising to boost awareness of our landing pages. Traffic to some of the more popular pages is sometimes doubled or even quadrupled. And you see some of the top landing pages from our website, the homepage, things to do, events. In 2022, that Masters Parking was a very popular page. I'm sure it'll be again this year. And restaurants is a popular page. But you have some other slides in your packet showing some of the other website pages and how popular they've been. But I'll keep moving on. The last slide before I get into the final section where we've received some feedback from this community and other stakeholders. We'll talk about that in a second. But for 2022, the average length of stay for visitors here is about 3 days. And the top 10 origin states show that we're an ideal drive market, primarily, particularly for the southeastern part of this country. You can see that heat map image on the right to see where a lot of Augusta travelers are coming from. But as far as the top 10 states, naturally Georgia is within the state. We generate traffic. Then there are the bordering states you see of South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina. We do have some significant traffic from Virginia. Have to think about the direct flights to Washington, D.C. and back, and then Texas, direct flights also from our airport to Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm going now to land the plane with the next series of slides, the last portion of our update to you. Until this point, we've looked at where we've been, so we've been looking behind us, and now I'm shifting to where we're going. And this is an invitation to ask you to let's work together for the opportunities ahead of us. We went through a strategic planning process last year called Destination Next, and it's an assessment process designed to lay the foundation for building a stronger, more resilient visitor economy. Through Destination Next, we measured primarily how local stakeholders perceived the overall competitiveness of Augusta's visitor economy. Again, we measured primarily local stakeholders. What did they think about Augusta's competitiveness in the tourism market? The scorecard looked like what you see on your screen. So when the data from the local stakeholders is plotted, the community lands into one of these 4 scenarios. And you can see for yourself that on one side, it's not as strong as the other side, but the goal is to really just begin to have conversations among stakeholders and residents to develop a shared vision for the future of our community. And I'll show you where residents responded and how they graded us. In June of last year, surveys went out by email, and these were the categories that people self-identified with. They were either with the tourism industry in some way, they were within various community sectors, or they were part of a visitor target market. We sent out surveys actually to about 600 emails, and we were returned about 154 respondents responded. That's about 26% response rate. The facilitator we worked on at that time felt like that was a very reasonable response rate to really gather some good data. What I was impressed by was the fact that more than 60% of the respondents were between the ages of 18 and 49. That just feels like a community that truly is on the move when you have young people that age take the time to participate in something about their community. I feel that's very strong. They evaluated the community based on various tourism assets, including attractions and experiences, events and festivals, outdoor recreation, and even the perception of health and safety. Then they evaluated this community based on what's called alignment. Is there cooperation among community groups and organizations and even residents? Is there business support for the visitor economy and within our community? Are we a city that values equity, diversity, and inclusion? What's the strength of our emergency preparedness? Is government in alignment with and in support of the things to help grow the visitor economy, which help enhance quality of life? And finally, we get to the report card. The scoring and assessment. Different groups had our destination in different places on the matrix. But this is where we landed as an average among all who participated. We are moving in the right direction since this assessment was done 6 years before. But what we're planning on doing is doing another assessment in 3 years. Some of the most compelling information from this survey that we gathered actually didn't come from just the selected answers that people could choose, but it came from a variety of open-ended responses to some of the questions. And you see here some of the recurring topics, the recurring themes, and what I call opportunities from some of those open-ended answers. I don't think any of these catch you by surprise, and I think it's actually encouraging that several of these topics are active topics right now from where you sit. The Riverwalk experiences, downtown infrastructure, more signature events and festivals, new arena, capitalize, and this is one that really caught us at Destination Augusta. It caught our ear, and we're like, we've got to really move on this. Citizens are saying we need to do more to capitalize on the music heritage and the music culture of the city of Augusta. So we've heard this loud and clear. This slide, I won't read it, but you can take a look. It's just saying that, yeah, we've heard this ourselves, and we're beginning to talk about building strategies around some of these items. But a lot of this will have to be done in partnership with other entities, so we will definitely share the full report with Augusta tomorrow as they prepare for their master plan. The last slide is just a very, very, very simplified version of our 2023 strategic priorities. Those priorities come from a strategic plan that was 100% developed from this assessment process. And you see here these areas of opportunity. First, we will continue to market and brand Augusta. We will continue to try to identify the best visitor segments and the best customers to bring that visitor economy here and to grow the visitor economy. That second column says we're committed to improving the visitor and resident experience. That's why we talked about the authentic Augusta experiences here in our destination. And finally, this assessment told us loudly and clearly, at least for Destination Augusta, we have to be more engaged within our community, making sure we get as many people, as many organizations on the same page as possible, pulling in the same direction. So thank you so much for allowing me to provide this update, and know that we always want to work with this city government and all the other organizations to continue making good things happen here in the city of Augusta. Thank you so much, Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for being here. I see Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Sean Frantham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Benish, for the great presentation. I'm excited to be on this, serving on this board with Commissioner Pulliam. I'm excited when just last week I was on the production of a film that was being shot. One was being shot at the Partridge Inn and being shot at the Y. And I talked with the producer, Mark Crump, local. Most of the talent was local. The budget was a $1.5 million film. And we've got other films that possibly could come here. But that's where this body, and over the coming weeks, I'll be bringing forward how we can help you, whether that's with an ordinance, whether that's seeing how we can streamline things better. One of my conversations with Mr. Crump was the fact that Savannah, not only do they support it for financially, but also kind of the things that they have from an incentive standpoint. And seeing, I know that we do a pretty good job in soft incentives, but I think that we all as a government went through, and probably through an MOU with the Destination Augusta, that we have that process outlined so where it's very seamless, very easy. We don't have to go back and forth with legal on what it is, because I know time is money and it slows down production. So hopefully we can work. Ms. Dallas, I know you've been a strong supporter of this and worked hard with Jennifer and the team with Film Augusta and seeing what we can do with that. Understanding too that you're going to need additional resources to really grow it the way Savannah's grow it. Their staff is a lot bigger than your staff. And when you look at some of the things that we could do here, one of them is the fact that our hotel tax is only at 6%. And if you look at cities of our likeness, I've got a report that I'll be sharing with the entire body where likeness of cities of our size are at 8%. And we have the ability to go up 2%, and this is on hotel stays, so it's not affecting the local individual unless they're staying in a hotel, but still that little 2% can make a significant in your budget. Obviously, you're going to get back the mixed drinks tax in 2025 that this body agreed to pay for the cyber deck percentage. You'll get that back in 2025. And then finally, over the next few weeks, I'll be discussing an Airbnb local ordinance that some municipalities are putting in across the state to hold these individuals more accountable, where we're having, especially in my district, is what we're having some Airbnb issues and hospitality issues and things that we'll be discussing locally here that possibly could help y'all streamline that process. I know y'all been bringing in some of that revenue as well now. But I think working together and putting some of these things in place, it'll just help y'all to grow the film industry. I mean, it's a huge boom in the state of Georgia, and we're getting a little piece of the pie, but we need to get more of the pie because y'all are making a huge difference by what you're doing. So thank you for that, and thank you for putting all the locals to work that they've been able to do by bringing these films as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Brown, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the great work that you do.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? We've got one more, I think.
So we're going to, just for the record, without objection, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Item 24 is a motion to approve implementing the program presentation from Best Friends Animal Society regarding an introduction of a new way to manage outdoor cats that is more effective and fiscally responsible than the current method of trapping and euthanizing.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk, for reading that. I'm looking for Ruth Mead. Is Ms. Mead?
Before Ms. Mead comes forward, Mayor, I'd like to take some action on this. I know that Ms. Mead has reached out to quite a few of us, and I was going to actually place this item back on committee agenda for next week because I've received quite a few different emails and phone calls in response to the discussion from last week, and I think it would be prudent that we place this back into committee to allow that conversation to go farther. Next week.
Is that your motion, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to move this back to our committee in April.
Well, our meeting, okay, go ahead if you want to. Oh, we'll be meeting on the 29th.
Yeah,
For the commission because of the tournament.
The next committee.
Okay, the second committee meeting in April.
Yes,
right.
If that's what you recommend.
I mean, it'll be the first, but it'll be the second week.
Clear as mud. Clear as mud.
Well, that's part of the course for us, right?
All right. So we moved it to the committee meeting in
April.
All right. So I have a motion and I have a second from the commissioner from the 3rd, correct? Mm-hmm. All right. Without further discussion, voting.
Yes, sir. On the committee meeting? Okay, it would be the 11th, April 11th.
All right. Madam Clerk, for the record, you got to.
That motion carries with Mr. Williams and Mr. Lewis out.
Is there any other business? Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, but before we adjourn, keep in mind, today there is an important vote in Richmond County. If you live in the 6th school board district, go vote. Go vote.
Good public service announcement, sir.
Huh?
Good public service announcement.
Thank you so much. and I forgot, I was just reminded, and Blythe. If you live in Blythe, you have some voting to do today.
Yeah.
Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.